Alright guys, welcome back to Beat the Game. This is Steve. It's Saturday morning. I'm in my PJs. My kids are watching cartoons. So let's talk about Marvel Champions. Alright, so the next aspect strategy we want to discuss is the, how do I call it? I call it the passive aggressive strategy. And so, Steve, what's passive aggressive? What do you mean by passive aggressive? Like, think about it as like death by 1,000 cuts. Alright, so you want to be defending a lot. You're going to be wanting to, mitigate the oncoming damage and be able to push out some damage at the same time. So I know there's a lot of strategies like that with perfect defense. That's kind of close to it. But perfect defense is mostly like you want to ready. You still get to remove threat. There's a lot of cross synergies between these. And I think like this archetype is kind of fading away because it's okay. It was okay when I first kind of saw the pattern here. Protection did not have a lot of ways to deal damage and stuff like that, so it kind of needed its own little house. But right now it's kind of merging a lot with the perfect defense and damage mitigation, damage redistribution. So I think this strategy, this is where I see it right now. Like after like 2 years of the game being out, it's evolving, and that's what's great about this game is like there's always like the game evolves, and then we find new ways to play. So this is a kind of like a broad strategy of exactly trying to mitigate as much damage, and I think that's where it's kind of going, mitigating damage. And hopefully like it keeps continuing within that pattern of damage mitigation. So let's see what we can do with these cards. And what's the downside of this? Well, the downside of this type of build is, first of all, you're going to be exhausting a lot to prevent a lot of the damage. You want to try to stay in hero form as much as possible. A lot of the heroes that work well in this strategy don't have a lot of thwarting options, or they're not very well, because they want to have a strong attack and a strong defense to make this kind of strategy work. So again, you're kind of looking at characters that are more unidimensional, and then they'll need a lot of support to be able to play the game on the long game, with the threat accumulating and stuff like that. But the fact that you're staying in hero, mitigating damage, the main scheme doesn't go up so fast, but you can get in trouble really fast with side schemes and stuff like that. So you kind of got to be careful for those kinds of things. So again, you got to build accordingly. So again, this is more of a thematic kind of build than a optimized kind of build. And again, this is just looking at the strategy as a whole. Again, it's evolving. There's a lot of good potential cards in it. It's just you got to kind of figure out what you like to play or how you like to play. And I think this is going to have a huge impact on this. All right, so without further ado, let's take a look at some of the heroes that can make this strategy come to life. Well, I really, really like Black Widow for this strategy. Death by 1,000 cuts. I think she's a very versatile hero. In protection, I love Black Widow protection. I really like her with the perfect defense strategy. But I also like her with this, with the damage mitigation and with or death by 1,000 cuts, because when she triggers her preps, she can deal some extra damage every time. What's it called again? The Widowmaker ability, which is super fun. Black Widow is, again, she's one of my top 5 heroes. I love playing Black Widow so much. And then speaking of damage mitigation and just being able to push out damage, you can't go wrong with Drax. Drax in this kind of strategy where you are reducing the amount of damage you're taking and pushing a lot of damage forward. Well, Drax is probably your number one guy to do that. So if I was going to say, yeah, I think Drax should be number one position for this here, for this one. I just like Black Widow for just all the synergies that she has. And because also Drax can get retaliate once he has his other knife, it just helps that strategy even more. And speaking of retaliate, we have 2 great retaliate characters here, Captain America and Black Panther as well. Very, very efficient and re-pushing damage. to the villain, like just with the retaliate. And then I do actually love She-Hulk in this strategy as well, using like cards like Counterpunch and stuff like that. But we're gonna talk about some of the cards after. So, and then after that, so these are like I think are like the strongest heroes to kind of do that, but in no particular order. Like I said, it's very tight. I like all these other heroes that can do all of this as well. So that's why, again, so Spider-Woman, she's kind of like a league of her own. Spectrum can be very versatile. Vision as well with the retaliate once he's in dense form. Hulk as well with the retaliate when she has his thing. Even Valkyrie here, because she can get a high attack, and then if she can equip the shield, you can, depending on the scenario, she can be actually pretty fun in this strategy. Quicksilver, once he does these maximum velocities, he has a high attack, high defense. So again, he works really, really well with this strategy. Gamora, same thing, can really work well within the strategy. Ant-Man and Wasp, high defense, high attack. These two characters can really work well. Hawkeye, Spider-Man, and Thor, again, really, really solid in defense, and then being able to bring those attacks up pretty high. So I like these. I think are my favorite characters to do that. Not to say that any of the other characters wouldn't be able to pull this off, but I think like Captain Marvel, even Groot, Venom. But I think I like these characters are like my top ones for this type of strategies. And I just realized like, oh, it's very bright in here, so I'm going to go darken. I'm going to press pause and just darken this room a little bit. All right, let's take a look now at the top cards for this strategy. All right, I think one of my favorite allies that actually plays into this strategy is Nova. So Nova can just sit around and by spending a lightning resource deals 2 damage to that enemy, and you can do that infinite amount of times as long as you have a lightning resource. So I think Nova is probably my favorite card for this passive aggressive strategy. Just sit back, relax. So whenever an enemy initiates an attack against you, so let's say you have 5 lightning bolts in your hand. You have all lightning. So the villain attacks you. Bam, deal 2 damage. All of the minions attack you. Bam, 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage. So that's 10 damage for 5 resources. It's pretty good. It's 1 for 2. You can't go wrong. 1 for 2 damage. It's like 1 card for 2 damage. That is like the best mathematical value that we have, I think, in the game right now. Like if you look at the skilled strikes and aggression, it's 0 for 2. Well, it's basically 1 card, which is 1 resource for 2 damage. So Nova really portrays that really, really well. So I think Nova is definitely my favorite card for this strategy. Aside from that, now again with the Vision Pack release, we got Flow Like Water, which every time you play a defense event, you get to deal a damage to the attacking enemy. So that's really, really cool. I really like that. It's free damage. Like I said, you pay 2, so basically it costs you 3, but as soon as you've done like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage throughout the course of the game, this card just generates so much damage over the course of a game. Oh, it's just so good. And especially if you have a very high defense focused card event, it can just be really, really powerful here. The next upgrade I love is Energy Barrier. Again, damage prevention and redirection is the embodiment of what we're trying to do here. So Energy Barrier is definitely a super solid card for this strategy. Definitely you want to be including those. And then we have a couple of events that we like. So we have the Preemptive Strike. Now I love Preemptive Strike. It's kind of like these. I didn't used to like it too much at the beginning because I was like, oh, you're always dependent on what the boost card is. So if it's a boost of 0, boost of 1, you're like, do you really want to do it? And to spend 2 resources to do 1 damage. So for me, it's something like I was very hesitant. But now with the new defense rule, what's really cool is in multiplayer. So somebody gets attacked for, let's say the villain attacks for 2 and he gets a boost of 3. Even if it's not you, you can actually pay that and then take that and prevent that damage. He gets a boost of 3. Actually, now there's boosts of 3s and 4s now. As we see the game progress, we see a lot higher boost icons on the cards. So I think this card is just like increasing. So once you're doing, for 4 damage or 3 damage, it's still pretty solid. Combine that with the flow like water and you get that extra damage. It's very, very fun. I love Preemptive Strike. And again, to the strategy, passive aggressive. So when I defend, I want to do something with it. So to compensate for those heroes that are not going to be using their basic powers or like their basic attack, well, it's kind of fun because basically Counterpunch says, well, you can do your basic attack now. So I really like the Counterpunch with that kind of combo there. I really like that, especially with Spider-Woman. If you put those brute strengths and then the brute strengths with the Counterpunch, so aggro protection, it can get really, really solid really fast here. And she can get up to like 5, 6, 7 attack and then just Counterpunch for 7, which I think is just so amazing. Very, very I'll defend for 4 and then I'll punch for 7. I'm like, ouch. And then you can stack them up. So if you have 2 in hand, you can double up as long as you have defended. So you can kind of take out the boss in 1 turn with a Counterpunch, which is super, super fun, again, for this type of build. So I really like, these are kind of my favorite cards for this archetype. Okay, let's continue with some of the best cards again for this strategy. Again, another card that was presented in the Vision Pack, we have Defiance. Now, Defiance is a great card. It just cancels the boost card. Triggered with Flow Like Water, you get to deal a damage. But for 0, so you are mitigating the damage that's coming in. So if the villain has a base attack of 2, you're only getting attacked for 2, which will let you stay in hero form longer, which is very, very cool. Love this new Defiance card. And it just, even if it cancels a star boost, it's really fun, especially for the against mutagen formula who puts goblins into play and stuff like that. That just says nay. So I love that card. Again, some of the same cards from the events from Perfect Defense, but Sidestep. Again, Sidestep is a great defense event that can actually push some damage through. Obviously, we'll have some overlap on some of the cards between the strategies, but Sidestep for me is a great way to defend without defending, and then preventing some damage and pushing some damage back. So for me, Sidestep is a fantastic card. It was hard to decide between Preemptive Strike and Sidestep. The reason I like Preemptive Strike is you can actually defend for somebody else in a multiplayer game, which this is why I kind of gave it that little edge. Again, sometimes, since we're not going to be really going for the perfect defense strategies, we're not adding those hard to ignores and things like that. So, and since our deck is very reactive, I really like the bait and switch here. Obviously, it has the lightning icon, but being able to control the main scheme is very good. Having the villain attack you, and then you can kind of mitigate the damage and stuff like that. So your turn is not wasted. So it's good to have ways for the villain to attack you during the hero phase, and have some cool interactions with your cards here to be able to set yourself up. All right. Aside from that, we're not going to be defending like typical defending most of the time. So having momentum shifts is another way to heal and deal damage when we heal. So the only rules, remember, you have to heal at least 2 damage to be able to do this. And then the final one is definitely a multiplayer, but it is basically the best card. And again, the reason why I didn't put it, because most of the people will be playing this, they try this in solo. But if you're playing this in multiplayer, this is the top 1 card to do. Stand Together. Stand Together is that alliance card. When a friendly character would take any amount of damage, from an attack, you exhaust an Avenger and a Guardian character. You prevent all of the damage and deal that much damage to the attacking enemy. That is just bonkers. Again, we played a deck. We played this in a 3-player game with me, Brant, and Brian, and we were using Stand Togethers versus Hela with the Galactic Artifact. So she was swinging for like 8 or 9 minimum. So when we were for 4, and then having the stand togethers and just preventing all of this damage coming through was just amazing. So again, these are my top events for this. As the support card that I really like for this strategy, I always recommend putting at least one med team. You do want to heal yourself. It's recovery of 6 over 3 turns. So again, it can heal some allies, or it can just keep you alive a little bit longer until you find your events that kind of heal you. All right, as far as upgrades go, well, Indomitable, obviously, if you're going to be using your basic defense to do this strategy, then again, you definitely want to be running things to get you ready so you can be back in action for the next turn. Electrostatic Armor, again, it's a way to passively deal damage every time. Either you defend with a Defiance, or you defend with a passive, or you defend with a preemptive strike. Those are like 9 cards that can trigger that Electrostatic Armor after you defend. So that's super, super good. So it's another way to deal some damage like that. Again, if you're going to be doing your basic defense for this strategy, I definitely recommend including an armored vest. Aside from that, and also an unflappable, because I'm not running all of them, but the rare occasion or the once in a while when you actually get a chance to do a perfect defense, well, dang, get the reward for it. Why not? Because between the preemptive strikes and the energy barriers and the Defiance, you might have a perfect defense without even having to defend, which is very good, which means you generate a card. So it's pretty solid for that. And then again, ways to pay for cards that you can't go wrong. So Nerves of Steel, awesome card to generate resources for those defense events. So that sidestep, preemptive strike, so now they're free. So can't go wrong. And then we have a couple of allies that I really like in the protection aspect to really reinforce this strategy. I think Jocasta, another vision card that really stands out because it brings back one of those defense events. So again, either the sidestep, either the Defiance, or the preemptive strike. It can't go wrong. And then Charlie 27, he's tough. He's a guardian, and he has retaliate. So again, passively dealing damage, can't go wrong with that strategy. Now we're gonna look at some of the basic cards that kind of complete that aspect strategy. All right, looking at some of the basic cards, I do like Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Again, if you're playing an Avenger character, Earth's Mightiest Heroes will be able to, you can use your basic defense if you don't have an event, and then still be able to exhaust one of your allies to be able to ready. I think that makes a lot of sense here in a strategy where you want to passively defend most of the time. Crew quarters, because you might be taking some damage. If you can go down to alter ego, you're exhausted, you don't need to recover, you can recover twice. 2 points of damage and then flip back up and then still be safe. So crew quarters for me is a good addition for that. Honorary Avenger or Honorary Guardian on your own character, again, just increasing your health points. But if you're playing that, you're like, Steve, why aren't you playing Dauntless? But again, because we are going to be taking some damage, and unless we have the Honorary Avenger and the Endurance, the Dauntless isn't really going to do much, because again, we're not trying to go for perfect defense here. We're just trying to mitigate as much damage as possible. So again, it would be good with certain characters that have all these power-ups on their health total. But again, it's just kind of weird to have it there and just like, it doesn't activate never, so you'd be kind of sad. Obviously, the other 2 good cards are Downtime and Endurance. Again, if you don't want to play the crew quarters, you can play the Downtime. But the downside of Downtime, it will cost you an activation. So you will have to recover and then heal for +2, which is good, which is basically what this thing does, but without you actually having to recover. And then the Endurance obviously just brings your health total high up. And then there's 3 more cards. There's one upgrade that really makes the cut here is Enhanced Reflexes. If you're going to be buying into that, Nova is awesome. just put in a couple of those enhanced reflexes, put them on the table, keep them there for Nova, and then just have that free a couple of damages for here. So it's pretty cool that you can turn 3 resources into 6 damage. Again, it's the good math. 0 for 2, 1 for 2, 1 card for 2 damage. With Nova, this makes perfect sense. And then obviously, because a lot of this strategy is going to be more of damage focus, thwarting is always going to be maybe a little bit of an issue. So being able to bring back Lockjaw, very, very good. Again, protection, Lockjaw. If you're not running that puppy, you're definitely forgetting something. And then finally, guys like Heimdall. So, you can kind of set up your preemptive strikes with Heimdall. You can look at the top 3 cards, and then, oh, well, look, there's a boost of 3. Well, we'll leave that one on top, and then we'll preemptive strike, and then poof, do 3 damage there. So there you go, guys. So those are some of the extra cards in basics that can complement the strategy. Obviously, we're going to be playing some games, so you guys can see some of the gameplay for this strategy. I really, really enjoy the damage prevention, death by a little 1,000 cuts and stuff like that. It's more thematic. It's and it does have ways that, wow, man, I'm pushing so much damage while doing no attack events, which is, it's fun to see. It's a way to play. It's definitely not an optimized strategy because, again, I think a lot of people have been commenting, oh, well, why are you playing this in this strategy, and why are you doing this? And again, for me, it's just basically, it's more of a general theme, a general idea to, help new players like you, that if you're watching this, maybe you're like, oh man, I don't know. I always use decks off CDB, okay, but then at one point you might want to start creating your own decks, and these are just kind of starting points of like, oh, what kind of strategy I can find within each aspect. So guys, if you guys like these videos, share. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe. And yeah, just put that little thumbs up if you enjoyed that video, thumbs down if you didn't, and just let me know why. All right, guys, always comments are appreciated, and I hope this strategy will help you beat the game. Ciao, ciao.